baby, here we go. Listen, thank you guys so much for joining us this afternoon on this beautiful Saturday. I am Joe Deckelmeier with Screen Rant, and we are gonna have a fun little chat with Andy Serkis. But before we do that, let's give it up for our ADA team, who's making sure that everybody can enjoy these panels. We love to see it, we love to see it. And thank you guys, give yourselves a round of applause for showing up here in Philadelphia, this beautiful convention center, and taking a break from the convention floor to hang out with me and Andy Serkis. But let's not wait anymore. You know him as Gollum, you know him as Alfred, Caesar, the Snoke, the list goes on and on. Let's bring out Andy Serkis! It's always great to see you, man. Always.
Hello, Philadelphia!
Andy, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great, and I'm feeling so much better being here down in front of all you.
Look at all this, the energy in this room, right?
100%.
You got a Philly cheesesteak yet?
No!
Are you going to?
No, because I'm a vegetarian, but anyway.
I'm sure there's a veggie option for it, right?
I'll get the impossible Philly steak.
Impossible Philly steak, doing it right. All right, look, Andy, let's dive in, because we got a ton of questions, and hopefully you got some fun answers and stories. One thing is, you're a fantastic storyteller, so I can't wait to hear some of your answers. You've played Apes, Dark Lords, even Marvel villains, 2 of them, actually. If you could do mocap for any non-human creature from literature or mythology, who would it be and why?
Oh boy. I would probably, what would I do? I would be Grendel. I think I'm from Beowulf. I think, yeah. I'd love to have a go. What an incredible character.
Why? Is there a reason why?
No.
All right.
I just fancy it. Look, if someone was to throw me a challenge, that's what I like. And it's great when things come out of the blue.
Now, I need you to complete a little bit of fan fiction for me, because if Gollum, Caesar, and Snoke were to be in a room together, who walks out alive, or would they just end up debating each other the whole time?
Gollum, Caesar, and Snoke?
Yeah.
I think, sadly, probably Snoke would come out alive.
You think so?
I do, because, Gollum and Smeagol would just argue themselves out of the game, and Caesar, it was just too, he's just got too much integrity to get involved in any kind of fight, but Snoke is so abhorrent. Being such an authoritarian, I think he would definitely do something horrible to those 2 other guys.
I think that you are such a brilliant director. You have such a great way of telling stories. If you could direct any iconic character or franchise without any notes, making it your own, what would that look like?
Any franchise?
Well, anything that in media that you'd want to direct, literature.
I've always wanted to make a version of the Phantom Tollbooth. Does anybody know that book?
Really?
Anybody know? I love that book, and one day I'm going to make it. I just think it's the most incredible book.
That's incredible. Now, between Gollum's obsession with the One Ring and Caesar's leadership, which character is most like you in real life?
Oh, I'm definitely more like Caesar.
Yeah?
Yeah. Well, I'd like to think so. I mean, he's got so much more integrity. No, I mean, actually, I am probably more like Gollum, to be fair. I am so ambivalent about stuff. I am probably much more like Gollum and Smeagol, arguing, thinking, kind of fighting with myself, wrangling, I'm a little bit more honest, I think, than both of those 2 guys. A little bit more.
Yeah, you've revolutionized mocap in the way that it's even done now. And every single year, I feel like that just advances even further. And look, AI is a thing now, and I feel like it's evolving. Technology's transforming things around us. Can you talk to me about how AI can help with that change without taking away any of the jobs?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's really important for all creatives, and they do understand that AI is an amazing creative tool if you use it in the right way, that you're respectful, that it's not about cutting corners or cutting costs, but it's used in a truly creative way. There's no need to be afraid of it. There's a lot of reason to be afraid of it in the wrong hands, but I think that's why if it falls to creative people to sort of create the tool set and the rules around using AI, I think that's a good step forward. I mean, obviously, with any form of technology, it can be used for good or bad, and we've seen it being used for bad. But that's why, you know, filmmakers, artists, musicians, if they fully embrace it and use it in a way that's going to be, you know, tell better stories, or it help create a different look for something that you couldn't possibly imagine, but you can prompt and I think there's some, but I think it's always got to come back to the creatives have to drive it, and the AI cannot get ahead of it. If we get into that position, then we're done. But I think as long as we embrace it, don't be shy of it, I think we can tell some extraordinary stories using it. I mean, you know, there are projects that I'm working on now where you know, characters can take on their own life and exist in like an immersive situation, but they will have been created by actors in motion capture suits who have created the voice and the physicality and authored those roles and you know, given them their sort of their DNA, but then they can then come to life and you could meet them in a room. And who wouldn't want to do that? You know, that would be an amazing thing to have it created by artists and performers, but then spend time with a CG character that then takes its own life and takes on its own life and can talk to you and exist with you in an immersive environment. Because that's where we're heading. You know, immersivity is going to be, in 10 years' time, we will not just be sitting down here watching things in a 2D format anymore.
I mean, that's kind of changing the way that even the modern theater experience is now. So what you're saying, though, is that we're going to be consuming media in a completely different way, you feel like?
I do. I think we're literally on the verge of a huge change in delivery of content. You know, we're used to watching things now on phones or on tablets and so on and so forth, but once the delivery platform, i.e. some kind of pair of glasses, you know, really works, which is the equivalent of carrying around a phone, when we all have those things, which we will, then you're entering into a whole world where you can truly have mixed reality, and you know, you could go into historic environments, say the pyramids, or into to old castles in Europe and see historical characters brought to life that can wander around, and so you know, all that is just, we're just a little bit nearly there.
I mean, you bring up a great point, because I feel like the way that we already consume media is a lot different than it was even like 10 years ago, right? So does that change your approach in the way that you direct and tell stories, knowing how immersive things are getting?
Oh, 100%, because you become, you know, it's not like, you know, it's not the same process of making a film or a TV show where it's about edits and choosing where you edit. That's really going to be the main difference, is that you become not spectator, but the spect actor, or you become you're the director of your own movie in a way, or you choose where you look, you control the edit.
It's like you're going to be in the scene.
Yeah.
This franchise, Venom, Let There Be Carnage. Venom fans out there? I want to ask you, talk to me about working with Tom Hardy on that in that role, because Tom had the time of his life making those 3 films. He had a lovely time working with you on the film. Talk to me about working with Tom on that.
I mean, he's such a genius actor, and he really owned Eddie Brock as a character and Venom. And the process of working with he asked me to direct that movie, and of course I got to work also with Tom. I also got to work with my very close friend Woody Harrelson, who is the pair of them. To work with actors of that caliber in one movie was just phenomenal. And Tom is so brilliantly inventive, and the way that his process for creating Venom was to record Venom's dialogue and then be able to place him in the room wherever he wanted. And because obviously symbiotically he can appear anywhere and move around, so by placing his eye line, my job was to kind of work through with him exactly where, I could guide him as to where, for the shots, kind of where I needed Venom to be, theoretically. But he had so much freedom to have that other part of himself you know, and obviously I've got experience of playing characters that have other sides to themselves, so it was a marriage made in heaven, really.
We know that Tom Hardy had his last dance with Venom's third film, but it seemed like that was Noel's first dance.
I hope so.
And look, we know that the Spider-Man 4 is coming out, right? How many of you guys would like to see this guy reprise his role in Spider-Man 4 with Tom Holland? Yeah? Talk to me about how the Noel role came about.
The Noel role came about very, very last minute. It was kind of like, you know, they realised that they needed the big bad, you know, to be part of it, but I was cast very late in the proceedings, and that was just like, oh my god. And in fact, I tell you what, some of the recording of the voice itself was done at literally in the 11th hour. I mean, I remember there's a section of dialogue that I recorded like hours before the film was being completed. I did on an iPhone in a car park in Manchester. At about 2 o'clock in the morning, because it was London, you know, it was UK hours, and it was so close to the bone, but it was a very creative process, but you know, pretty unusual, I have to say.
I can imagine. So wait, you recorded that lines like in your car, just on an iPhone, like, hey, this is technology, man.
I know. I mean, that's the thing. Actually, you'll be surprised. A lot of actors do that for lines that needed to be dropped in at the last minute. They'll get the call, and they'll be able to. You know, the quality that you can record, obviously, on your phone these days is so high that you literally go straight into the production sound.
I want to talk about Ulysses Klaue, who we saw in Avengers: Age of Ultron and Black Panther. Let's hear from Ulysses Klaue, man. When you got the role in Age of Ultron, did you know already that he was going to be in Black Panther, or not?
No. I mean, no. At that point, there hadn't been any talk of Black Panther. So again, the way that role came to me was through. We were actually working on two things. My performance capture studio, the Imaginarium. We were tasked with. One, creating the right atmosphere for Mark Ruffalo's Hulk. So he was in a motion capture suit, and I was sort of coaching him, and then also we were working on how Ultron would move, and so that we were doing experiments with physicality and how Ultron would move. And then Joss Whedon said to me, you know, Andy, I've always wanted to work with you as an actor, not just as a motion capture consultant. I think I might have a role for you here. And I was like, oh yeah. And he said, yeah, Ulysses Klaue. And I was like, that's a great idea. I like the idea of Ulysses Klaue. You know, so that, I mean, it was, again, that was the sort of, these things, sometimes these roles come to you in the most unexpected ways.
That's the storyteller Ryan Coogler, who has a film in theaters now called Sinners, an absolutely incredible film.
I am dying to see Sinners. Everyone tells me it's amazing. Have you all seen Sinners?
It's fantastic.
I can't wait to see it. I've heard it's amazing. Yeah.
I heard that there was a improv that you did in Black Panther when you were locked up and you started singing. Is that true? And how did that song come about for that scene?
So, I mean, I was sort of singing around as Ulysses Klaue, tapping my feet and kind of, you know, just kind of, you know, sort of grooving away, singing the song. And he was like, yeah, that's great, I love it when you're doing that, and you're tapping your feet and your feet are chained to the chair and all the rest of it. And he was going, what other songs? And then, so I came up with a couple of ideas, and then he said, what about What Is Love? And I was like, what is love? You know, it was just like, yeah, definitely, that's, you know, and so we just started having a go at that, and that was the one that he chose.
That is incredible. That adds so much layer to that character, like in that one scene. Talk to me about working with Ryan Coogler, because I feel like he is one of the best directors out there working now.
He's incredible. He's such a brilliant storyteller. He's a wonderful actor's director. You know, the atmosphere that he creates on set is second to none. It's just it's so creative, collaborative. You know, it was very funny actually. I know I've told you this story before. I think you know what I'm going to say. But when we were doing Black Panther, the scene that Martin Freeman and I had, the interrogation scene that we're talking about, he kind of half jokingly came up to us both and said, look, he said, Andy, forgive me, I've never directed a scene with two white actors before. And he called us the Tolkien white boys. The Tolkien white boys.
There you go. There you go. Another brilliant director you worked with, Matt Reeves, and Alfred Pennyworth.
Well, and actually the Apes movies.
And the Apes movies, that's right, that's right.
I mean, Matt is just a huge inspiration and a great friend and another magnificent storyteller. Again, because he comes from, for him when he was directing the Apes movies, it was all about recognition, all about personal storytelling, things that he wanted to explore about relationships, you know, that came from him. And the same with the Batman and the relationship of Alfred to Bruce Wayne and there, it all comes from a very personal place with Matt, and he pours his heart into those movies, both the two Apes movies and obviously Batman, and I can't wait to see what he's going to do with the next one. I really can't.
I can't even about this stuff as well. You personally, I don't know what the story is. I'm not sure if you do. I'm not going to ask what the story is. But do you have a Batman villain that you want to see in the Batman 2?
Gosh, wow. I can't think. I just can't think.
Your answer. Let me ask you this question then. How would you like to see Alfred and Bruce's relationship evolve in the second film?
Well, we've what I loved about what Matt created in the last one was this sense of a guardian who has not an iota of paternal instinct in him, trying to be a father he could never be, and that was really at the core of their relationship. That he really felt he failed the one person that he adores and tries to look after. You know, he knows how to help him. Sort of in terms of skills and in terms of cracking codes and how to fight and all of those things from being a soldier and from being in the military and from his past. But the one thing that he fails to do is to have any sort of real proper paternal feelings for him, and that I'd like to see that the exploration of that deepen and go further, but put in. I mean, I don't know anything about the story of where Matt's taking it, but I would love to see that, taken to extreme, but in a more extreme situation.
Because those Apes films are absolutely incredible, and I have so much respect for what you guys do, especially on the mocap side. Kevin Durant recently taught me how he was moving around as an ape, and it took me forever to try to figure out how to get it down, so credit to you guys. But I want to talk about the psychology of Caesar and your movements as Caesar, and because everything mattered with that character. So can you walk us through how you kind of developed Caesar's mindset and psychology?
I mean, you got to remember that when Caesar is not just a chimp. Caesar was brought up by human beings. This is crucial. Caesar was a chimpanzee who had been infused with this Alzheimer's drug that was affecting him, where he was becoming more human-like, so he was constantly evolving. So in the rehearsal process, which was very short, in fact, for me in the first movie, because I came to the role quite late in the proceedings, in actual fact. But I based him on a real-life chimpanzee called Oliver, who in the 1970s had a lot of scientific experiments performed on him because they believed he was, in actual fact, potentially had a mixed DNA and was potentially half human and half chimp, and he was taken around the world and had a lot of experiments done on him. But I want this sense of identity. Really, it's all about the films are about identity and belonging. And Caesar is a chimpanzee that grows up thinking he's human, until he's thrown in with his own kind in the facility in the first film, and he has to suddenly realize he thought he was a human in ape skin, and actually now he's got to be an ape for all of it, to galvanize all of these other disparate groups of chimpanzees, orangutans, guerrillas and bring them all together and then lead a rebellion. And so, and all the time, his DNA is changing, evolving, and he is becoming more human-like. So it's a very complex journey in terms of evolving that character. And obviously throughout the course of the movies he begins to speak more, so linguistically, language-wise he's using less ape vocalizations, but he's becoming more upright, he's carrying himself bipedally, he's quadrupeding less, he becomes more human-like. And one of the most difficult things about that was this growth of language and how articulate he became, because it would have been a bit weird if he was too chatty too early, if he was just like conversational. So we had a lot of experiments with how he would talk, still using breath from a chimpanzee to create guttural monosyllabic sounds. So anything that had too many syllables in a sentence or a word seemed wrong, So there was lots of micro adjustments, and again with the physicality that was becoming more human-like. In the last movie, he's pretty much feels like he's a man.
Might be one of the greatest film franchises in history, cinematic history. Earlier this weekend, I spoke to John Davies, and he said look, a lot of people in Hollywood at the time believed that was an unmakeable movie. There's a lot of producers that believe you can never make this movie. And think about this, Peter Jackson was a horror movie director on smaller budgets. So stepping into this epic fantasy world is quite the task, and it takes a lot of faith for the studio to get behind that. When you knew the movie was getting made, did you automatically know that this is something special, or were you a little hesitant whether or not he was going to be able to pull it off?
I mean, I immediately when I landed in New Zealand, and I actually joined the process. They'd already started shooting The Fellowship. I'd been working on Gollum on my own back in London. When I arrived, I'll never forget it, came straight from the airport in Wellington and landed on the set there and saw the scale of what was going on. I mean, I literally walked through the doors into the refectory, and there were orcs sitting eating lunch, and there were hobbits, and kind of like just the scale was monumental, and there was immediately a sense that something incredibly special was being created, and I got taken around and met all the cast, and sort of they were filming the Battle of Helm's Deep, and they were sort of they did 14 weeks of night shoots, and so I went to visit them on set, and it was just like you couldn't fail to realise that something phenomenal was happening. And not only that, the film crew, the local film crew were all, the New Zealand film industry was literally being evolved with the films, and people were finding their way through. They started off in one department and would find their way and their strength in another department. So it was this whole learning curve, and this sense of family, and family not only from within, but also the family that Peter was creating with you guys, as a fan base. Taking that sense of this extended family and including you by letting out information, including you in the making ofs. I mean, the amount of people that come up to me now, honestly, and I've had conversations with many of you who said, I watch the behind the scenes on Lord of the Rings as much as I watch the movies, and that's because they were made for everybody here in mind. They were inclusive, and that's Pete as a filmmaker. He as a fanboy himself, and he wanted to put that out there so that he was sharing the storytelling with everyone, and that's up until that point, the studios were very protective about getting material out, and Pete completely blew that out of the water.
Yeah, it's really impressive too, watching those behind-the-scenes extras, because it does feel like you're going to film school yourself, learning how they created this. And one of the coolest things too is you mentioned this a little bit, but New Zealand, it really put New Zealand tourism on the map. There's a lot of things that were shot thereafter, but talk to me about the immersion when you're walking onto a physical set and you're seeing the scale of that physical set, how immersed you get into your character being surrounded with it.
Yeah, I mean, there's you know, being on if too much of a set is with green screen and you do have to do a lot of work as an actor. But if you walk onto a set that is completely physically real and it's built in, like Edoras on top of a hill where they actually physically built that place, or Hobbiton where they built the entire place and you're wandering around in this world. It does so much of the work for you, and so it affects you emotionally, and that was happening every single day because we were shooting on the most phenomenal locations, and it really does. It really helps you bury yourself deep in the world.
So you kind of knew the mindset you need to be in, the movements, but being on that physical set and talking or working with those other actors, does that change your approach at all?
The whole reason and the whole way that Gollum came about was because Peter very early on said, when I met him, he was auditioning for the role, he said, look, we're going to change the way that CG characters work on these movies because it's too much to expect the actors playing at this time. I didn't know it was going to be Elijah and Sean, but it's too much to expect the other actors to have to imagine what Gollum is going to be doing, because Gollum, drives a lot of those scenes in terms of, the wedge that he drives between Sam and Frodo, and it would be, if they just had to act against a tennis ball on a stick, and then this CG artists then put in this character afterwards, it would have no life. Those scenes would have no life, and that was the big game changer of why he wanted to cast an actor to play the role of Gollum, and so it was about creating, being that third person of the triangle that was dramatically inputting into the scenes rather than, as I say, just having a voice off camera and the guys acting with a tennis ball on a stick. So that was a huge game changer, and Elijah and Sean completely understood once we got into a role, how that was going to operate, and it helped them know it.
I just read in a Hollywood trade that The Hunt for Gollum now has a release date, or at least a time frame of December of 2027. That's coming soon.
Yeah.
It marks the first live-action return to Middle-earth since over a decade, I believe. How does it feel to be the one leading the audience back to Tolkien's world?
I could not be more thrilled. It's such a great honour to go back into that world and to and if ever there was a character that I would love to revive, it's that one, because there's so much more. There's so much more there, and so I'm thrilled to be able to go back and tell another Middle-earth story with the film crew that I've grown up with people that I've my New Zealand family of creative people, and to go back and work with Peter, Fran, and Philippa, and all of the originators. It's a total thrill, and to be given this opportunity to direct is, in a franchise that I adore is quite phenomenal.
That is amazing. Well, there's a special guest here that wants to say hi.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, maybe.
Okay.
Anybody? We have somebody.
Who might that be? Are they in the audience?
Well, you might know him. I talked to him earlier this week, and he told me that he would be really excited to reprise his role if you ask. I'd like to bring out John Rhys Davies.
I'm here to audition for a small role in The Hunt for Gollum.
Well, let me think. What would you see yourself as?
An elf.
Excellent. Okay. Now, would you like to do that using motion capture or performance capture, or just with prosthetic makeup, or none at all?
Motion capture? How do you capture motion? I know! You use a camera! Yes, well,
Sean told me Sean told me earlier that he would return as long as the makeup didn't take an extended amount of time. If he does return, Andy, can you at least promise him that the makeup process will be a lot faster this time around?
100%.
How is it coming on?
It's very exciting, actually. I mean, we're going to start going into prep sort of in August, and then we're going to start shooting early part of next year. So it's getting to the point where I'm getting ready to pack my bags for another year. So yeah.
God, yes.
Yeah. Do you remember that?
It'd be nice to be back.
Oh yeah. God, you know. Well, you know. I mean, it's you've been back a number of times, haven't you? I mean, it almost becomes hard to keep away from New Zealand.
Yes, that's right. Well, Wellington is a great place to be.
Phenomenal. I mean, has anybody here actually been down to New Zealand at all and done any of the location touring or?
There we go.
Yeah. One person, amazing. But honestly, I would encourage you all to. Have you been back to Hobbiton at all?
I haven't been back to no, I was back earlier this year actually.
Awesome.
Number one son went back to Waikato University. At the age of 53, he decided we want to get a degree in mathematics, having dropped out of classics when he was 23 in Berkeley. Anyway.
But I think, but honestly, if you are Lord of the Rings, how many people actually like Lord of the Rings here? You've got to go, in your lifetime, you have to go to Hobbiton. You will just be dying go to heaven. It's incredible. And so many of the other locations too.
When we went to is this, can anyone hear me, by the way? When we went to New Zealand, tourism was worth about $1.4 billion a year. By the time Peter Jackson had made Lord of the Rings, and just before COVID, which is the last number that I've seen, tourism in New Zealand was worth $14 or $17 billion a year, depending on which way you calculate it. That's the significance of Lord of the Rings to the New Zealand economy. Sir Peter Jackson did more to put New Zealand on the map of the world than anyone since Captain Cook. And we loved him, and love him still.
He's a phenomenal, yeah. I mean, the whole team are they're exceptional people, and you know, seriously, you've got to do it. At some point, if you're a big Lord of the Rings fan, you have to go down there because you'll love it. You'll absolutely love it.
So, Andy, I know that you said that when you walked onto the set, it was like being transported to another world. You knew something special was going on. But John, for you, when was it when you were on set that you knew that you guys were making something special? Because originally, you did not think that it was going to go down the way that it did.
I didn't think he had a chance in hell of making a movie of it. You know, it was going to be 3 years wasted, actually time wasted, and then the first one would fizzle, and we wouldn't finish the damn thing. But his genius in every aspect of filmmaking and his ability to inspire other people. He created a film industry out of nothing, really, to do one of the most complicated projects in the world, and to make New Zealand one of the go-to places to make really sophisticated films. James Cameron went there and did Avatar. But of course, all the technology is changing so quickly that you really have to move damn quickly these days and not spend more than a year over it, because it would be...
No, that's right.
Again?
That's right. Everything is, all the technology. I tell you what's really interesting is that when we started making Lord of the Rings, the video game industry was so looked down upon by the film industry. And here's an example. Now, pretty much any big budget visual effects movie is completely driven by the video game technology. So all of the previews, all of the virtual production processes, it really it's to your point. So much has changed in the last 2 decades, and will continue to. And it's great to see the video game industry come of age in such a powerful way. I mean, even in its own right, of course, but just how it's flipped the film industry on its head.
Yeah, I mean, that stuff is now almost standard for the previews and stuff now. Yeah. It's almost standard for almost any movie that has intricate effects and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
One thing I learned from John earlier this weekend was that great directors have something in common. They're great problem solvers. And you had said that the thing that impressed you the most about Peter Jackson was his ability to solve problems on the fly. I just wanted to get your take on working with Peter and what impressed you the most about his direction.
He is a master storyteller with the camera and also performance, and the marriage of those two things. So what I really adore about his camera work is that every single shot has a kind of story arc within it, every single shot. So, and it never feels spectacular for the sake of spectacular's sake. It's storytelling, kind of just pours through every single moment of where that camera goes. And if you watch Lord of the Rings, there isn't a missed beat. There isn't anything that's there that's extraneous or shouldn't be there. It's beautifully crafted, and I think that it's the marriage of knowing how to tell stories with camera and direct performance, and that's rare, because a lot of directors are good at one or the other. Some can be brilliant with actors and not so hot on how to place a camera or how to how the flow of a scene will work. And when you get people like Pete who just knows intrinsically how to do all that together.
His definitive edition of Lord of the Rings was the theatrical cut, not the extended cut, but he shot the extended cut for hardcore fans because he knew that they would want to see that in the film. I'm actually curious to hear you guys, and we'll judge by your applause, which is your definitive Lord of the Rings edition, the theatrical cut? So the extended cut. You guys on stage, which is your definitive Lord of the Rings edition, the theatrical cut or extended cut?
I do think the extended, because those are the ones that people would have wanted to release theatrically. So I'm pretty sure that's why they feel like there's so much more investigation of character and detail and the moments that he shot. So they're there because he wanted to tell that story.
You, John?
If you see the extended version of Lord of the Rings and you look at all the little extra bits in it, it's a complete filmed school primer. You will learn more about filmmaking in that extended edition than you will in 3 years of film school, I think. Though you do get a bit more hands-on there, I imagine. Yes, it's wonderful. Jackson has the full palette that a storyteller needs to have. Many directors have certain talents, certain unique talents, but he's got the lot. And more and more, the ability to inspire those around him. He created a film industry where there never was one. Quite extraordinary, unique, I think, in the last 60, 100 years. Early days of film, where are we now? No, the early days of film are already 100 years old plus. I think he's really quite remarkable.
You mentioned your love of music. Have you ever used rhythm, melody, or specific composition to shape a cadence of emotional tone of the character's voice or movement?
Yeah, I mean, let me think. I've used I mean, I listen to music, like for a certain character, I would listen to music to get me in the zone for it.
I hear that a lot with actors, is they have a specific playlist for the characters that they're playing.
Yeah. And I mean, I often do it, and it is a great, it's a really brilliant way of centering you, and focusing you and emotionally plugging into something that you're thinking or feeling 100%.
Now, you've been in Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, Marvel, Planet of the Apes. I guess this is a question for both of you. Is there a franchise that you haven't done yet that you want to do? I mean, it is.
Oh, God.
I mean, you've done Indiana Jones. I mean, Sliders. Come on now. Lord of the Rings and all this.
Yeah, you know what? I don't really want to join old clubs, really. You know, let's go and do something different and new.
The original.
The wonderful thing about this age, in this age of complete studio torpor and massive misjudgment and a complete inability to understand what the audience wants, is that this is the age of the new independent young filmmaker. And if film is going to survive, it won't be the damn big studios that will be doing the surviving at the moment. You know, they are devoid of ideas. They have no idea how to get value for money. They're still playing with the big expensive tricks when the new generation of filmmakers are shooting handheld with extraordinary special effects that they're putting together instantly. I have a friend of mine who's made a little low-budget horror picture with me in it. He finished shooting 7 days ago. He was promoting it at Cannes yesterday. I've seen the rushes, and I've seen the combinations and the assemblies. Fantastic little thing, made on the smell of an oily rag, really, in terms of money. Big studios, they don't get it. They don't listen, and they do not understand their audiences. Young filmmakers do.
Thank you for saying it's just very interesting. Can I ask the audience? It'd be very interesting to know. You know, when a film comes out, do you wait to watch it streamed, or do you go to the cinema? How many people go regularly to the cinema now?
That's good to see.
That is good to see, actually. And you're still compelled to go and you know, go and see it when for that opening weekend, and you rush to go and see it. How many people would rather just wait and put your hand up and watch it at home, in the comfort of their own home? Okay, that's healthy then.
I mean, I understand a little bit of people wanting to watch them, specifically during COVID. We all like souped up our home entertainment theaters, and that's the way we're consuming media, so I understand that. But I kind of feel that like the one thing that's killing the film industry a little bit is that things will come out theatrically and then immediately get released on streaming, and I feel that like, I remember going to a movie and it being there for a while, staying at the box office for a while, and it becoming an event. Going to a movie used to be an event. Whereas now I feel that like it's on streaming so quickly that you just pass it by, you know?
And going to the movies is such a collective event. When I was at university in Norwich, we used to get the new films every week, and everyone would pile in there, and you would know collectively, instantly, when you'd seen something extraordinary. When we saw Billy Liar and we saw Julie Christie for the first time, the whole audience virtually came out saying, "That is a star." You know, and you don't really get that, you know, in your little home movie or on your computer with Netflix, or even on the airplane, where I seem to watch most of my stuff these days.
Well, look, I appreciate all of you for coming out. Please meet Andy at his booth, get a photo, get a picture. Same thing with John there, both amazing, incredible. your questions